Oh, I guess I did not do the go live into the intro song, so my bad. What's going on, everyone? This is the Daily Fix. It's Friday night. Most of your fantasy football leagues and shows, they're done. Not us. We're not
Nope.
going anywhere. Well, apparently Joe Matt says he's at a family dinner, but we'll still be here every Friday night talking DFS. So it'll be DFS. Obviously, this week we're about to get into a wild week 18. You got, would you not call wild cards probably my favorite DFS week of the year?
Yeah, it's a fun week. I can't wait to see the Houston Texans play the Pittsburgh Steelers at 4:30 on Saturday. That'll be I'll make sure I'm grocery shopping during that game. Mostly though, I'll be, the rest of the game should be fun, but that game is like the death slot. Like nobody wants to watch that game. They put the least, popular game on it. It's the Texans every year.
It's been that way for so long. It's so funny you say this because I've always listened to Bill Simmons. I mean, going way back, they have called this game the Shakey's game for at least a decade because they would go eat Shakey's pizza. They would go to this crappy pizza place, celebrate the fantasy football season and watch some shitty playoff football because it's exactly what it is. It's like, what two teams do we not want to see? And it is amazing that the Texans are in it every year. There was the one year, though, what was the Bills game? That was Josh Allen, right? Where they went back and forth, and that was kind of Allen's breakout party, wasn't it?
I think so. And then last year, wasn't it Browns and who was it? Was it Brown? I want to say not Browns Steelers.
It was Browns Texans.
Yeah, it was Browns Texans. I feel like the Steelers were in one of those, like maybe the year before. I don't know if it was against the Texans. It just feels like it's the Texans slot. Like I'm gonna have to go back and look and the history of the 4:30 Eastern Saturday game.
Nothing more exciting than watching Joe Mixon run it up the middle on first down for 3.5 hours.
And third down. And then on fourth down they punt. Tommy Town. It's the Joe Mixon and Tommy Townsend show.
Oh man. So week 14, Jesus, Keith, off to a good year in 2025.
I was going to say, it's 14. I got some stuff I got to make up for.
I was going to say, if it's week 14, I'm going to bet the bank because I think I remember what happened that week. Yeah. We were talking a little bit before we went on air that this is just the ultimate crapshoot. I mean, this is a gambler's week because what did we say? There was 5 games, right? We think that technically teams have stuff to play for. And then outside of that, we're hearing rumors Trey Lance may play. We're hearing rumors that, already a ton of people are doubtful, out. And this is where you can get wild. You can get weird. If you're a degenerate, like I know that we are, this is kind of a nirvana here.
Yeah, this is the Wild West. Like this is almost right up there with week 1 because week 1 we don't have any data points. Week 1 we're like up against it, just hoping and praying for our preseason priors to hit and manifest in week 1. Week 18 we got everything here, and now the teams are just shaking shit up. And it's basically the big pickle race from Happy Gilmore or from Billy Madison. I'm sorry, they throw up the pickles and see which one slides down the fastest. But Cardinals, Niners, Colts, Jaguars, Bills, Patriots, Texans, Titans, Eagles, Giants. All 5 of those games either have 2 teams out of the playoffs or teams that cannot move up or down in the seeding. So most of those teams are not playing anybody worth a damn, or probably shouldn't be. We already know about obviously Saquon Barkley, and I believe Will Birdie did say something about that on the draft show on Monday.
You called it.
Going against the grain.
You called it.
Just because it doesn't make sense to play him. I understand these records don't come along every year or so, but neither do Super Bowls. And I think it's we before me. That's to put on my to go on Narrative Street, put my 3 fingers in the dirt and get in there. Like that's what it's all about in the end.
So if you were a team like the Rams, some of these teams that their seeding is in place, but they're in like that, that's almost, would you be resting? Because it's looking like across the board, these teams are. I do sometimes wonder, like, if you're really banged up, like the Rams, 100% understand. Like, they've had a year from hell. Stafford, as just somebody who watched him at UJ, Stafford's always hurt. So anytime Stafford get a week, it's a good thing. Kyron's had like a freaking gazillion carries the last, month. I get that. Some of these other teams, though, I don't know. I worry about rust. We see this with the Chiefs every year, where it seems like the best shot to beat them when they look their worst, at least in the playoffs, seems to always be coming out of that bye. They're a little slower to get going on offense. How would you weight that? What would be your situational thinking here?
I mean, it's really on a case-by-case basis. You would figure like Andy Reid and the Chiefs, they know how to manage their players. They know how to manage, because you're veteran laden. You have Travis Kelce, you have Patrick Mahomes, who have clearly earned it. They've won. They know what it takes to win going into February. So you kind of take their word for it in cases like that. In cases of teams like, Buffalo, where, they're kind of locked into seeding, but, they have a lot of pieces there that you could, kind of make a case for to play, to not play. Like, I think that because of teams that we know, obviously the Rams are probably the most conservative team as far as their personnel. I'm still wearing my glasses, by the way. I just realized I was wondering why it got so dark in here.
2025, man.
I know, right? I mean, look, 6 minutes in, usually the glasses are off halfway into this.
So the conversation's good. So I think that's a compliment.
Exactly. But like with the Rams, like, who the starters are. And during the season, those guys are playing 90, 100% of the snaps. That's what makes like week 18 great, is that they're not playing their starters, but you also know who's going to be in there. So like,
is it Stetson week? Is that who they're gonna go with?
No, it's Jimmy Garoppolo week, baby.
Damn it, man. I really wanted to see my boy Stetson.
That is a good thing, though, because if you're one of my favorite plays of the week, I mean, just kind of not to bury the lead, but like Jordan Whittington is like one of my favorite plays of the week, and it's not even because we know he's going to play, but Jimmy Garoppolo is not like a zero by any means amongst all these backup quarterbacks. So I'm perfectly fine with throwing a Jimmy Garoppolo in. Obviously, Kyron Williams isn't going to play. Blake Corum looks pretty good.
Blake's going to be in some lineups for sure. It's so
Blake Corum's getting like 30 carries.
Right?
I'm telling you right now.
That's what I was thinking. I really like Carson Wentz with the Chiefs. We've seen this from Kansas City the last few years, where they're one of those teams that, yes, they're going to sit their guys, but they're going to try. They've won, I believe, 2 of the 4 situations, like the games outright in these situations. And what I love about Wentz is, like last year when we saw him in week 18, I think he ran for like 60 yards, a rushing touchdown. So he has a rushing upside, but it's the tight end where you can play like Noah Gray. This is a guy who's for his career throwing like 30% of his passes to tight end. And next thing you know, you can stack a guy, with Gray, or if you even want to go with another one of their secondary tight end options, thinking they sit him, you're talking really cheap. Let's start with the games that we know, like, because we joked, right? If this was a cash show, I would probably be playing Bucky, Baker, and Evans and figuring it out somewhere else, right?
Yeah, we know the Bucs are going to be, still playing as aggressive as ever. And plus incentives, we know they're one of the teams that, even going back to like Bruce Arians, are a team that will take care of their guys. Like, we know Mike Evans needs 85 yards.
It's a lock, right? Like, wouldn't you say that's like the lock bet of the year? He needs 5 receptions, I believe, and 85 yards is what I saw for the both bonuses.
Yeah, that feels like as locked in as it'll ever get. And you're playing the Saints. Like, the Saints are like they have the dude with the red thing and the bullfighting. What am I thinking of here? The Matador. The Matador. Yeah. Not just incredible, but El Matador.
I was hoping you were going to go something meaner than that, as a Falcons
Oh, wait,
fan.
no. Wasn't that Tito Santana?
Back in the day, absolutely.
That was Tito Santana. Who was I thinking of? Who was just incredible in WWE before? Why can't I think of that?
You're talking about the guy from ECW, right?
Yeah, he was somebody else, he was like, I'm gonna have to look it up.
Santana's outfit was awful.
But that was Tito Santana for sure.
It was one of the worst outfits ever. And when Vince was really at the height of, hey, let's just do racist stereotypes for all of our wrestlers, it was pretty impressive, Vince. I'm glad to see that you finally got your come ups. But
but the Saints are definitely a matador as far as just letting everybody else go by. I see no impediment to Mike Evans.
Jorge going with the Hurricane Shane Helms. Is McMillan still, you think, relatively safe, or do you really think? Okay, because
I do. I mean, he's running 85% of the routes for the Bucks right now. He's a locked-in starter. I mean, just looking at what he's done last 4 weeks, he has 6 touchdowns in 4 games. And he's run 82, 86, 86, 83% of the routes last 4 weeks. So he is as locked in as like Godwin was, where you can kind of centralize. I don't know, not value wise, but like knowing he's going to be out there on the field.
So on the other side, the Saints, obviously, if we think there's going to be points for the Bucks, there's always opportunity there. I have a hard time getting past basically 2 guys, again, because it's MME. MVS is always interesting to me. The Bucks give up a ton of explosive plays. He can do it, on any one pass. And then Juwan Johnson, if he's healthy, is a guy, though, I really like. We saw him get peppered with targets last week when the Saints were down. And I think he's at like 3,600. So, I mean, we're talking about, we get a 12, 15-point game. We're thrilled, but I could see him scoring 20-plus easily.
You want to hear something sick with the Saints?
Absolutely.
Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
Yes, let's do this.
Kendry Miller. Kendry Miller's out with a concussion. Clyde Edwards-Helaire got a sneaky, let's see. Let me.
He's 4,100 this week.
He's looking like the starter. I mean, have we seen anything on Jordan? Like Jordan Mims? Jordan Mims might even be in play because he's going to be like the receiving complement. Like you could dumpster dive. This is the week to dumpster dive. When you look at guys like Jordan Mims and Clyde Edwards-Helaire, it's real.
You're right about Edwards. So I didn't realize they made Mims inactive because they brought up Edwards-Helaire. So, I mean, you're right. They'll both be active, but that would seem to point to,
CEH.
Getting the first touch, which, man, what would that say about 2025 if the $1 million lineup right off the bat includes some CEH? But I like that. Anytime you can get a back for 4,000, to me, that's intriguing. It's just like on Saturday. I know we're not going to talk that slate, but you look at the Cleveland backfield, it's the same deal where they don't have any healthy running backs other than Dante Foreman. So you can get, what's his name, Kelly, that used to play for the Chargers. Like, these guys are 4,000. And to me, at 4,000, throw them in your lineup. It'll allow you to play Lamar and, play Pickens and play all the expensive guys, Chase. And if they get like 6-8 points, it's great. So the Falcons game, obviously, again, they broke my heart yet again last week. Raheem Morris was just an all-time blunder. It's the kind of thing that is frustrating as a fan because we're always told that, coaches know and you guys don't know football or whatever. Bullshit. Me, you, Joe Matz, anybody else who has watched football at level would have immediately called timeout on that completion, knowing that it's much better to have 1 timeout and 35 seconds left than it is 2 timeouts and like 12 or whatever it was after they ran the play.
One of the literally does you no good.
Ever. It just it makes me so sick because they played well and they should have won that game, but they've got to win because it is Tampa. I mean, I know it's very, very unlikely, but Tampa is also a franchise that is known to doing some goofy shit. And we've been picking on Carolina's run defense all year, and rightfully so. Again, they give up 24 more yards per game to opposing running backs than any other team in the NFL. Bijan, ironically, had his first 20-point game all the way back in week 6 versus Carolina. He's had 20 points or more in 8 of the last 10. So that's kind of like right there. That was where basically they figured, hey, maybe we should give this guy the ball a lot. Bijan is going to be in a lot of my lineups. Same thing on the other side. The Falcons, like, our secondary sucks. We still don't get consistent pressure. I know the sacks are up. You look at the teams we played, they give up the most sacks in the league. Like, I think it's 4 of our last 5 are in the bottom 10 in sacks allowed. Carolina's got actually a pretty decent offensive line. I love Bryce, and Adam Thielen to me is an absolute smash. Number ones have been murdering us all season, but particularly down the stretch. So, like, I like building lineups sort of with those cores of those two games. And you give me CEH, like, that just gives me more flexibility because throwing him in there, I could maybe even throw a London in there, right, if I wanted to, or, like I said, play all 3 bucks.
Yeah, this is the week, like I said, more than any other week that you can jam in the best plays and then fill it out with like min price players and still be in a really good spot. Obviously we just talked about CEH there. Like Bijan Robinson is the highest projected ownership, at least 30%. Not that seems low. Like that could get up to 50%, 60% as like a clear must-have guy across, like no matter even if he goes off or doesn't go off, like still I think he's going to be in a ton of lineups. Carolina Panthers have allowed 200 plus rushing yards in 5 straight games. The first team since the 81 Patriots to reach that mark. So if there's ever a game for Bijan to go off, it's this one.
He's so much better at home too, like so much better at home.
Yeah.
It's going to be fast track. He's got freaking 6 touchdowns the last 5 weeks. Like the Tyler Algier experiment is over. Your point,
convert him back to linebacker.
Right. You called this though, because this is, in a lot of ways, an extension of the Rams offense. It took a little while to get here, but it is Bijan, London, and then everybody else's pieces from there get considerably smaller. But it's consistent. Like even with Pitts, like Pitts gets 4 to 6 targets. Mooney gets 6 to 8. Ray will get, 3 to 5. But you're going to feed the ball to Bijan. You're going to feed the ball to London. Any other like Carolina pass catchers you like? Because again, if you think the Falcons are scoring, or would you just, spend on Thielen, especially with the success with Bryce?
Yeah, I mean, we know that Legette's questionable, so I think that puts Coker in play a little bit. But I still think it's Thielen and Bryce Young. I mean, and definitely Thielen if you're going to play any of the pass catchers.
Is Blackshear intriguing at all? Because remember, the Falcons are a good run defense, but we do struggle with pass catching backs, which that's really what more Blackshear is, right?
A little bit, but actually, Miles Sanders might be in line to play. He's questionable.
My God,
but he's practiced in full on Friday today.
Yeah, it just says designated to return from injured reserve and a full practice participant Wednesday and Friday, sandwiched around a limited one. Man, we have reached the end of the season, my friend. Good God Almighty! Thank you for bringing that up.
Look, as a Miles Sanders hater, it pains me to say something. It really does. But I need to alert our public about these things, and it brings me no joy to talk any sort of close to glowing.
Just remember, people, Miles Sanders walked, so Saquon Barkley could fly in that Philadelphia.
So he could crush us all. Yeah.
All right. What's the next game for you? Because the one I'm looking at. Colts Jags. Jags defense is still atrocious. Again, indoors. I know the Flacco experience was bad last week. This is a much easier matchup. And if Flacco has anything left in that old tank, this is the week to do it. Like Pierce is very reasonable price. Pittman, Downs, take your pick. I really like that. And I think everybody's going to be on Taylor when Jacksonville is bad versus running backs, but they're actually way better versus the run than they are versus the pass. And I think that maybe means that the Colts pass catchers are, under-owned and Taylor's a little over-owned.
Yeah, the Jaguars are like generationally bad against the run or against the pass, I should say. Yeah, they're
just really bad versus the run, but they are generationally bad versus
I don't know if there's an adjective to properly describe that. But yeah, I think actually Pittman's in play for Flacco. This could be Flacco's last game as an NFL quarterback. Like he's 40? Is he 41 now? Like we got to be nearing the end of the road at some point.
Let's put it this way. Matt Ryan, who was his counterparts in year 2 or 3 of being a broadcaster / analyst. And I believe they were the same age and came in the same class. So
yeah. Well, Joe Flacco couldn't beat out Tyler Palko at Pitt, and that's why he ended up at Delaware, and that's
Worked
how
out
he
pretty
ended
well
up.
for him.
Yeah, that's what. It ended up pretty well. But is it weird that I actually would rather play Alec Pierce than
No, that's
Downs?
dude. Jacksonville gives up the most plays of 20 yards or more to wide receivers, the most plays of 40 yards or more to wide receivers. And I immediately think Alec Pierce, especially coming off his career high for targets with, I believe it was 8 last week, right? And he had 6 catches. Like, dude, he could just, I mean, literally 2 passes. Pierce could have a monster day with the way Jacksonville just gives up monster plays in the passing
5K.
game. And he's shooting. Did he have 8 targets? You mind checking that? Because I don't want to say it. He had 9 targets. So it was even more than I thought. So that was the most he's ever had in his career, caught 6 passes. What happened with Downs? You know, because he wasn't even targeted. And that's where I'm like, maybe it's not the automatic start anymore, just anytime Flacco starts.
I mean, just because we know who Josh Downs is. He is as pure of a slot guy as there is, and it looks like, from what I see, like they just used a lot of their tight ends. Like, you know, they'll use 12 and they'll use 13. You know, they'll use all these formations. They'll use like 21 and all this other stuff, and they'll just use a bunch of tight ends and not keep Josh Downs is fine. We know he's going to get targeted when he's on the field, but you know, the targets per out run when he's on the field, he's like 27%. Like, you want that, but he just
especially in MME, right? The ceiling is nowhere near what
right.
Pierce
like when it's 2 wide receivers, it's almost always Pierce and Pittman. Like, those are always the 2 wide receivers there, and then it's when they get into the third, and that's when Downs is, you know, on the field a lot, and he's on in almost every 11 personnel. Like, that's and 80 Mitchell. What
Pittman had 10 targets last week, to your point. You know what I mean?
Right. Like, he's just a big target, good for Flacco. I think that's perfectly fine. I think it was just really a bad, you know, kind of a bad run out for Downs. I mean, he still is probably the best. I don't know. I'd say him and Pittman are about equal as far as like target earning wide receivers. Like, we just don't see enough Downs because of his specialization. I just think it was a bad game, bad run out. Like, he still ran 65% of the routes, although that was, let's see, that was actually the lowest route percentage he's played all season was last week. Obviously, outside of the first 2 games he missed this season, but yeah, but you know, that's not great. But I think Downs is still in play. I just like Pittman. I like Pierce a lot more.
Obviously, our Lord and Savior Brian Thomas also in this game.
Oh yeah.
I don't know what I can say other than Drew Lock last week connected 13 times with his wide receivers for 274 yards and 4 scores. And Malik Neighbors is a bad mofo. Don't get me wrong, but at the rate that Mac Jones is throwing, that feels like the best value of the expensive guys, you know, like say 6,500 or above by a lot. This is a really good matchup indoors. Last game of the year. What do they say over and over again? You know, last game of the year, can't hold anything back now. I'm going to have a hard time, even though I know he's going to be super owned. I don't care. Like, outside of Evans, there is no wide receiver I would rather play this week than Brian Thomas.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Like, Brian Thomas is, you know, the inevitable Brian Thomas. I'm going to make that nickname stick. Like, the inevitable Brian Thomas, because that's what he feels like. Like, you can almost pencil in 8 for 85 and a touchdown on Brian Thomas. And you can't do that with a lot of wide receivers. You can
young Chase, right? Like, that's who it kind of reminds me of with Chase, like that first, I think it was his first year when he just started really cooking. It was like every game he'd have 7-8 receptions.
Like, he's DK Metcalf. If DK Metcalf could run a full route tree, like, that's who he is.
He could run routes like Lad McConkey.
I mean, there's something in the water down there in, you know, Louisiana, certainly, with like 4. I saw some stat like it was CeeDee Lamb, Jamar Chase, Brian Thomas, and might have been Jefferson. They all grew up within like 50 miles of each other in Louisiana, something like that.
I mean, LSU just in the last 6 years has had Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Malik Neighbors, and Brian Thomas. And not to mention Joe Burrow and Jaden Daniels at QB, who are, you know, like that's 4 of probably the top 8 wide receivers, just being honest, and definitely 2 of the top 5-6 QBs in the NFL. A little bit of talent. It is shocking how bad LSU was last year. Hello, Brian Kelly with Jay Daniels and those two, though. Like, how did they lose? What about like?
By the way, $5 super
this.
chat. I know NRU here, friend of another stream, but
well, NRU, thank you so much. Yeah, man.
Yeah, appreciate the $5 here. Won't spend that all in one place, certainly. But yeah,
I'll probably spend it on Candy Crush if I'm being honest. NRU.
Oh my God! What a boomer! Good Lord! At least play Pokemon TCG or something.
Dude, I am definitely a boomer. So I can't help it. What about like Parker Washington? Like, is that somebody too that, because again, Colts got absolutely just torched last week by Drew Lock. And Mac Jones, again, is he like a everyday starting NFL quarterback? No, but I think he has proven he's a decent backup. Like, he's somebody that at least can go out there and move the ball. And I think the Colts are going to be deflated is the other big part. Like, I mean, they had everything in front of them and laid the biggest of eggs versus arguably the worst team in football. Because, again, my Falcons destroyed the Giants the week before. And my main thought leaving that game was, God, they suck. And then they went out and beat the Colts when it was a must win. So I don't know if the Colts are going to be all there. The Jags are a dumb franchise. They'll probably hurt their playoff, their draft status. This is what they do. I kind of also like Washington because you can throw both of them in whether you want to play Mac Jones with a double stack or not.
Yeah, Washington's ran 100% route participation the last 2 weeks. So he's definitely in play. I mean, he only earned 3 targets but made it count. Still scored last week against the Titans. So I think he's definitely in play as far as like you could pencil in Brian Thomas Jr. and Parker Washington. I think I don't want to say Bretton Strange is like I don't feel as good about that because they pulled him after he fumbled.
That fumble. Oh yeah, there's been a direct. I know he's banged up too, but there's been a direct line to way he was targeted and sent. So,
but yet Tank Bigsby fumbled and nothing. That same game, Tank Bigsby fumbled, nothing. Didn't pull him off. He
went to Auburn though, so I mean, I think that they're used to people from Auburn fumbling. In fairness. I again, the tight end position though is one that I'm not worried about like that game because I love the potential of Noah Gray this week. Like I think that he's gonna get it. Like since Hollywood Browns came back, it's been rough. 2 targets in 2 games. That's not what he wants. Before that, saw like 20 over the previous 4. I don't know if they've officially said that Kelsey won't play. I would be, he's doubtful now. I would be shocked.
Him and a bunch of guys are doubtful.
So, right, like I would be shocked if he plays. And again, just Carson Wentz, I went back and looked in 2020, 31% of his passes went to tight ends. In 2021, 10.4 of his pass attempts per game went to tight ends. So he's going to be throwing to the tight ends. I like that combo. And again, I mentioned Juwan Johnson, but you could talk me into like Noah Fant down in that range. I think Kraft's very interesting. Disley, who they may want to get back involved, like with the Chargers, who we know has missed a couple of games. Like Colcom, there's a bunch of tight ends in that cheap range. Hooper, if May plays, I'm waiting to see that. Like, I'm not going to spend up on tight end as much as it's helped us this year playing guys like McBride and Bowers and Janu Smith. Tyler Conklin is like a definite start as soon as he's cleared. He even, I think, was interviewed and was saying that, like, look, we play basically to the whistle blow. So he went out and had one of his best games. I'm going to go cheap at tight end, allow me to, make sure I have Bijan, make sure, I have some form of those guys in that 7-8K range, at least 4 or 5 of them.
Yeah, I'm a little iffy about Noah Gray because he's almost like a de facto starter the way he's been. I mean, his route. So
what tight end would it be then?
It'd be like Peyton Hendershot. Like I see Noah Gray as like he's like more than a backup, but he's not quite a starter. Like he's involved enough where I think that the Chiefs would maybe not play him the whole game. So that's where I have some pause with Noah
I like
Gray,
hearing that even more though, bro, because I'll happily play Henderson. Like I say, he's 2,500. I mean, all we need is a score at that price.
I mean, it could be him. It could be Jared Wiley. Like, I don't know if Jared Wiley's off of IR yet or whatnot, or if they're gonna even bring him up. They've used, God, who have they used? They've used Anthony Firkser.
Wiley's still on IR.
He
now
is.
Now you got me wanting to look them all up.
Now we're crawling down the tight end 6 and tight end 7 of the Chiefs. That's where we've gone to in week 18.
Fortson's still on IR. The only other active one that they have
Baylor
is
Cup.
Winchester.
James he's Winchester. Literally their long snapper.
Okay, so then
he is not touching the field.
Hendershot played with Dallas, right? Is that the same guy?
They got him in a trade, yeah.
Man, that's kind of intriguing, dude. Because now you're talking about I can do a lineup. Because again, I don't hate Wentz because of his rushing upside at his price. Dude, you're talking about him with Hendershot. That's like right at 8K, maybe 9. That's not too shabby at all. What's the next game you're looking at and you're like, this is intriguing to me? Because again, a lot of them, I think they're just stayaways unless you have a gut feeling, because we have no idea what's coming. Like Trey Lance, right? Supposedly now going to play some in Dallas, where if I knew it was going to be even 50% of the snaps with his rushing upside, sign me up. Because what's he, probably 4K, 4,500?
Right. And we talked a little bit about it already, but it's probably Rams Seahawks because of how it's clear cut with obviously the Rams not starting all their guys. So it's literally next man up with Jimmy Garoppolo at quarterback, Blake Corum at running back, Jordan Whittington.
Robinson or Atwell, do you think, is the other Ram that
Atwell? Robinson's basically a starter.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's their third wideout. You're probably going to see a bunch of Tyler Johnson as well. And then
doesn't Garoppolo throw out to his tight ends? Is that somewhere we probably should be looking to? Why not?
It's probably it's either a Davis Allen or we could see some Tyler Higbee here, which is kind of crazy. That is probably where I'd stay away from with the tight ends, just because of that's some uncertainty there where you don't know, like, because Colby Parkinson has like been the de facto starter for most of the year, but down the stretch here, he's played a lot with like Davis Allen. Hunter Long has been involved. Tyler Higbee is now introduced, and it's kind of tough to kind of parse that together. So I'd almost rather just completely stay away from it rather than like playing the shell game of who's it going to be.
What about on the Seattle side? JSN, obviously, or are you looking at like Fant, or where are you kind of going?
JSN is pretty much a lock, I think, for me, as far as if I'm going to play anybody. I feel less inclined about DK Metcalf. I just do think that I think with a lot of the JSN DK Metcalf stuff, especially second half, we've seen a pretty big shift in like the offensive focus go to JSN versus DK. And I think a lot of that is because Seattle hasn't had like the most time getting passes off, especially downfield, where that's DK's bread and butter. Why even look that way when you've got JSN who's running a lot of intermediate, running a lot of short stuff? You can at least dump the ball off to him, off to Fant, whereas DK needs a lot of long developing stuff to get open to, throw 50-50 balls. And if you're throwing him only like contested stuff, it's really hard to get consistent production out of him. So that's where I lean JSN as far as
Gino's somebody too that I think is like 180 or something yards away from like $1 million bonus. So I mean, you think these things matter, right? Like if the player is I would assume that their guys have got to be like, let's help this guy get
Zach Ertz too. He has a big one. I think he's like 8. He's like 8 for or 9 for like 90 and a touchdown away from like almost $1 million total of.
Let's see if I can find that. I had that I believe saved where it was all of them. Obviously, again, the Evans one, no surprise. So here are the biggest one. Kyler needs 50 rushing yards and a rushing touchdown for $750,000. So not too shabby there. Cortland Sutton, and this is one that's very interesting to me. Obviously, they're in a game they need to win, but he needs 82 receiving yards for a $2 million bonus. Not too bad there. Joe Mixon needs 107 rushing yards to get a $250,000 bonus. Tony Pollard needs 2 rushing touchdowns and 83 yards for basically $500,000. So there's guys out there. And again, obviously we talked about Evans earlier that he needs 5 receptions, 85 yards, and he gets 3 million. Geno gets 2 million for 185 passing yards or more.
Ooh, I mean, Evans might get that in the first half. I mean,
right?
They might get that over with and then get him off the field.
Because remember the last game between these two, they literally did the exact inverse where they ran for, I think it was like 300 yards, it seemed like, in the first half. And that was the first game without White. That was kind of Bucky Irving's coming out party. Plus, what's his name?
Sean
Taylor? Tucker also went nuts.
Yeah.
Again, like we're getting outside of the games where we've kind of talked about the main ones that I really like. Now, if you're throwing in Saturday, again, that's different. And you can do that because I think it's safe to play, Cincinnati's guys, Pittsburgh guys, like those teams are playing for something. Baltimore, again, kind of though in the Tampa situation where, if they get up huge, it's over. And I'm more worried actually about that game because Cleveland's offense is so pitiful right now to where
Bailey Zappi, by the way.
Is that who it is official?
Number 40. Their 40th starting quarterback since 1999 is Bailey Zappi.
Wow.
Tomorrow.
I guess every time I think it's just the Pitts being a Falcons fan, I'm reminded that
it could be much worse.
And that's it's really not a shot at the Cleveland fans out. Like I feel for you. It sucks having, teams that just constantly disappoint.
As Green Bay's had 7.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the Steelers. We were talking about the other day with us hiring Morris. I think it was like the Falcons' 20th coach or whatever since 1967.
And the Steelers have had 3 in their entire franchise.
Like, fuck you, Pittsburgh. It sucks there too. Like, come on, man. Who wouldn't rather play football in Atlanta? Is there any chance that Philly backups go bananas? Because that's the other one I'm looking at, especially like Kenneth Gainwell. Very cheap. We know Barkley's not going to play. I would assume that they give him first run, right?
I mean, that's where it gets tough because I'm looking at him as like Gainwell is still a contributor in that like main offense to where they were giving Tyrion Davis-Price carries at the end of that game. So I would not be shocked if it was like just to eat up carries in a meaningless game. If it's Tyrion Davis-Price or Will Shipley or somebody of that ilk, like I could see Gainwell taking some of the work, but I think the fact that those other guys exist gives me pause. And
even if it's close, because that would be my concern. Because I do believe these teams are still going to try to win. Like I really do. And again, remember the Giants. I mean, after last week, if they win again, there should be a full-on mutiny. From the fans and everybody, because this is 2 years in a row. You've just absolutely wrecked your draft, capital and position by winning meaningless games at the end of the season. I'm not blaming the players, but it's like, that's where the GM and coach have got to step in and be like, we got to make sure this is basically what Cleveland's doing right now. Start DTR and Zappy. It's like, we don't even want to mess around.
They're going to start pulling people in from the stadium to, play quarterback.
Joe Matz. Joe's a Giants fan.
Yeah,
maybe we get Joe in there.
Tell him to stay close to his phone.
I don't know if he wants that. As he's talked about without Andrew Thomas, how bad that whole line is. So
you don't want to make $100,000 for 3 hours of work?
I don't know if he'd be able to walk again. It's a problem. So what about the Niners then? Like Garendo then? Because like these backs in this range to me are intriguing and they have good matchups. Like Robinson Jr., Dottle. I do think that Washington's going to try to win, right? Like they're technically playing for something. And if I'm Washington, I'm not going to be letting Jaden Daniels do too much because it's not the end of the world if you lose. And I think we can all agree the most important thing for Washington is to make sure Jaden Daniels and Terry McLaurin are healthy for that offense side of the ball. I could see a very heavy run-heavy script for them. Again, Dottle's been getting so many touches, but I keep looking at Garendo last week, especially with the way he was involved in the passing game once Dobbs came in late. And I think that's extremely intriguing because we know Dobbs is the kind of QB that typically helps the run game overall because of his ability to move. And if he's going to get, like, I think it was 2 or 3 of those 4 receptions came from Dobbs in the last, what he played quarter or whatever. that's a really good price for, we know Niners lead backs typically play a majority of the snaps, right? They get all the red zone touches, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
What if I told you the highest projected ownership of quarterbacks belongs to the Pastronaut, Joshua Dobbs?
He's really, what is his price tag?
$4K.
That's why. Okay. That makes sense.
I mean, I'd play him.
Now I'm going to have to probably have a him, Jennings, and Garendo lineup. Yeah. Oh, no, that's even better because he's cheaper.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying Pearsall is like, coming in to usurp Juwan Jennings, but he looked like every bit the first round player that, he was drafted to be. Like, he looked fantastic.
He was incredible at the Senior Bowl last year.
Yeah. And Kittle is nursing injuries. I doubt he plays anything meaningful. Honestly, I don't think it's worth it. I don't think they want him to, come up with something.
From the Niners, it's been the year from hell. Like, we've already ended the season with CMC, Purdy, and Ayuk. There is no way in hell
Sim to the end of the season.
Yeah, it's like, bro, this has just been the season from hell. There's no way we're ending the season with like 4 of our top 5 offensive, pieces being injured. That the Corum play we talked about, that's like the smash play for me. Seattle is somebody who you can run on at times. And the only thing I'm not sure is Corum a good pass catching back? Because that's my only concern is what happens if they get down. Does he catch passes?
Yeah, he was fine in Michigan.
I just can't remember. I didn't watch.
Like, he's adequate. I don't think he's like anywhere close to like the Rashad White kind of, what he was at Arizona State.
He'd still stay on the field is my point, though, you think, right? Like, even if they
might throw in some Ronnie Rivers, I would guess, but I think it's Corum. Just Corum gets the game to do what he can do.
And then I know this is going to be gross, but I'm just going to say it. This was the guy pounding Amir Abdullah last week, and people were looking at me like I was crazy. He is out this week.
Yep.
So that means Madison is going to catch 5-6 balls. Aiden O'Connell is starting. Aiden O'Connell loves throwing to running backs. I expect the Chargers to be up in that game because the Raiders are bad. And either way, like, just the way Aiden O'Connell moves the ball is throwing to running back. So, like, Madison, to me, at his price, it's very safe he gets 10, 15 points. We know if he scores a touchdown or whatever. Like, I would love for Abdullah to be healthy because it was just nice to see a guy that we were all so excited about all those years ago kind of get his moment with the Raiders over the last couple of weeks. He looked great, but now he's out. The guys I wanted to ask you about, because New England is definitely in we got to lose mode. Buffalo, we were talking about beforehand, if you got Josh Allen and all those guys, you just want to make sure everybody's nice and healthy for next week. So I'm looking at Davis, Johnson, like those Bills secondary backs. I don't think James Cook will get much, if any, of a run. And then it's, to me, which of those backs do you think ends up doing more damage? I lean Davis because it seems like Johnson is more of kind of at least a focal point of some of their game plans, to where Davis just kind of seems to be their spell back. But we've seen what Davis can do when he gets a good bit of touches, when he had that little mini heater early in the season.
What is the last couple of years? Like, I think it was Antonio Williams has been like the week 18 back du jour, who is like, whenever you go onto like Fantasy Pros and you look up, points per game, it's like he was at the top because he only played in week 18 and scored like 28 points in PPR, something like that. But that's funny. I just thought of that. And that could be Ray Davis, where he gets, a ton of run. We know Ty Johnson's probably not taking a lot of like between the tackles carries, more with space guy, that they'll get in space either in the short passing game or, something off tackle. But
yeah, he had 20 carries all the way back in week 6. Remember when James Cook went out, and he hadn't had more than 11 in any other game, but every game that he's had at least 7, I believe he scored 9 points or more. So that could be pretty intriguing. What about my boy Michael Carter? Because that's a guy I keep coming back for Arizona.
Oh, my God, he catch passes. Whew.
Right? And he's 4,700, so he's cheaper than a majority of these guys. I just and they don't really have much of a choice. Benson, IR, Connor is already ruled out. Like, who else are they going to give it to?
They literally have nobody. Like I'm going through right now.
That's what I was asking you because you're really smart. Who is their other back at this point?
It's like DJ. You want to give DJ Dallas a run? I mean, maybe, but
maybe
that's about it. It's Michael Carter's
The problem is
backfield.
they should be winning, right? With the Rams sitting all these players to where I think like the better backs can end up getting more touches. Plus, it's like what you said. If obviously they get down, Carter's unbelievable pass.
I think that game's gonna be close enough where Michael Carter is just gonna get run no matter what. Especially
he may be my favorite back then this week. He's 4,700, right? I think that's right.
Yeah, Michael Carter feels pretty fun as far as a guy that you know that he's going to be out there. You can just plug him in. Everybody else is hurt. Atlanta's like just hitting sim to end. So, I mean, that's the thing about these games. That a lot of these games, they're going to get over way earlier than you think. Like you're going to see games at like 3:30 Eastern, like 5 of them are over because they're going to be running the ball. They're going to be, just getting out of Dodge, waiting to get tee times at Doral or Pebble Beach or wherever. Like, yeah. We
hopefully not in Georgia because this dude is cold and they're talking about we're supposed to have some stupid Arctic freaking blast next week. I am not excited, bro.
They can go to Pinehurst #2 then in North Carolina.
What about Kenny McIntosh? Let me give you one more name because he saw 7 carries last week. He's a dog, so he, one of my guys. I just like. You think they're going to just go ahead and give it to Charbonnet no matter what the situation is done? Because he got 7 carries in the first game last week without, Walker since they placed him on IR. Got 46 yards on those 7 carries. Again, we've said the Rams, they're not, really playing for anything. He's 4,400. To me, that's another guy that he was very explosive at UGA, was known for busting big runs. If I just could know he could get 7 to 10 carries, like I don't hate that play against a Rams team with really, not a lot to play for.
I don't mind it either. I'm probably still just because we know like what is Charbonnet's price?
He's expensive, man. Because I really wanted to play him, but he's 6,700.
Wow,
wow. Yeah.
Like with some uncertainty there with like how much McIntosh is going to get. With Charbonnet,
you can play Garendo for 800 less, for God's sakes. You know what I'm saying?
mean, we've talked about all these backs with we've talked about the Bijans, we talked about the Corums, we talked about Michael Carter. Like those guys feel more just infinitely safer than Charbonnet and McIntosh. Like that's the risk reward profile that you have to kind of weigh out when you're making some of these decisions. On
what do you think it's more likely with the game scripts we have? You see wide receivers who are very cheap, getting opportunities to go off, or running backs. Because I think if you can pick the right game, it's the running backs just because of the script, right? Because you have like second, third string defense. They don't care. It's just run the clock out. Now, again, obviously, if you pick the right game where, say, a team gets down early, and they're just flinging it could be the receivers too. But I almost think it's probably more likely you could, maybe guess some of these running backs just picking against the teams that have to lose and playing, like a cheap running back against like the Pats or, these teams that have real draft status on the line if they win.
Yeah. If you're picking, if you have to pick between a running back and a wide receiver, more than likely you're picking the running back. If you're able to pick like the game that, well, just because we know that wide receivers obviously, and like, having to split up a target pie, you're splitting that between 6 to 7 guys, maybe more. And with a running back, if a team gets down, I don't know if it's like super likely. Obviously, it's game dependent, but I don't know if it's like super likely that teams are going to want to like push back, especially if it's a team that is out of it. Like, what does it behoove them to do what is it for a team like the 49ers if the Cardinals get up 24-0? What benefit is it for San Francisco? I mean, draft positioning and whatnot, but that's not something you can really think about. But what is their motivation to push the Cardinals to get Josh Dobbs into you need to throw 60 times minimal, I would say.
What about your boys? We hadn't talked about them, the Packers, because they got some interesting cheap backs. If you think that, say, Jacobs is not, going to get a normal share. And Chicago is another one of these teams that it's rare, but it's so much easier to run on them than it is to throw on them.
Yeah, Jacobs himself was the one who said that he doesn't think he's going to be getting a full workload.
Oh, that's a pretty good source.
Right. Yeah. It's like you go on X and you're like, yeah, who's your source, bro? It's the actual player. But that certainly puts Emmanuel Wilson in play, maybe Chris Brooks in play. I think no matter what, I'm still staying away from Jordan Love, still staying away from those wide receivers because there are so many of them. The pie is much smaller, even in, Green Bay doesn't have like a lot to play for. They're just trying not to, I guess, have the Commanders leapfrog them. But that would be like it. I'm not.
I'm done with your pass catchers. Your boy Wicks cost me potentially I had 195 points in my $100 single entry lineup with him left, and just all I needed was like one big play from him, and he did drop a touchdown that I saw, which that hurt because then you start looking how much I would have moved you up with the extra 8 points. And you're like, son of a bitch. But Packers very good at football, but one of these teams that just
is unsexy outside of Jacobs,
and you can't trust them for DFS, right? With the Vikings, even with some, whether it's an Addison or it's, Jones or Hawkinson, who has, that you're going to get a lot of Jefferson, right? Like the Green Bay is one of those rare teams. The Bills are the other one, basically in the AFC where, it's going to be Allen, but you have no idea where he's going or who it's going to be. I think that's what makes both of those teams so dangerous for the playoffs is that exact same reason. It's hard to, know how they're going to try to attack you.
Yeah. Great real life team, bad fantasy team. That is the Green Bay Packers. That is
the
aside
Chiefs.
From, I mean, we talk about, my talking point that I'll take till the day I die apparently is going to be condensed offenses, and Green Bay is not that, the opposite of that. So it's going to be tough to even peg. It's tough to even peg a running back because who knows? Josh Jacobs could get 20 carries by we saw him get 8 of the first 9 carries in that game against the Saints.
Yeah.
And that first drive, knowing the Packers, they could just be just hit the gas and go, all right, Jacobs, you're getting 14 out of the first 17 touches, and then you're off.
Because they're technically playing for seeding, right?
Well, the only thing that can happen is they can get flipped by the Commanders.
But they have to lose, right? So honestly,
they have to lose.
Yeah.
That's,
again, to me, that would be motivation.
Or no, Commanders are ahead of the Packers right now.
Oh, so they need to win and the Commanders lose. Is that right?
I believe so. I'd have to look at it.
Again, Washington, Dallas, we didn't talk about that really yet, but that is always wild. If you just remember what happened last time those two teams played. And again, Trey Lance, Cooper Rush, whoever it is, for whatever reason, it seems like those are always really close. So I would just be careful with that one. Knowing that about Sutton, does he move up your board at 6,400? I mean, he's been the most consistent. We always talk about the offensive players. I don't know, is Kansas City going to rest most of their defenders? How are they going to treat it on that side of the ball? But he is one of those that gets a huge bump from it. And right now, the only guys expensive I'm looking at is Evans, Thomas, and then I go down to Thielen, JSN are the next two for me. But I did want to ask you, knowing that about Sutton and getting, I think it's $1.5 million just for getting 88 yards. They might be looking his way a little bit more than normal.
Yeah, Sutton's always in play. Sutton has been one of the most consistent wide receivers of the last 8-9 weeks. So I do think that he's certainly in play. And about the Chiefs, also doubtful Chris Jones, Nick Bolton, Drew Tranquil. So there you go. A lot of the mainstay defenders, are going to be out for the Chiefs. So I would certainly say Bo Nix is certainly in play as well. So
that means Mims too, right? He's cheap too, man. I think he's 4,100 is what 4,200, something like that. Or 4,600.
46 ain't bad. That's not a bad play if you're up against it. But man, I just don't know. I want to see him get more than 10 routes a game before I
get it, but the 26 yards over his last 5 is really significant when he has 47 on the season.
Yeah.
And when you see that is, those are the kind of things. It's kind of like with Janu Smith, right? Where it was a similar deal where he wasn't running a ton of routes, but like the targets kept going up and his, snap percentage and routes kept going up. And then once they like kind of unleashed him, because I don't know, how many did he run last week? Because last week he saw 8 targets, obviously caught 8 balls. Do you have that right in front of you? I'm just curious if, it's where he's running at least 20, routes, or like what are they doing there?
46% of the routes he ran, 18 total routes last week.
That is some Janu numbers though, right? Like 8 targets on 18 routes. Like that's
44% targets per route run.
Impressive, man. To your point about Purcell too, I just saw Debo's out, so I'm full send on that now. Noah and Garoppolo, I think that's the exact kind of guy that he normally has some chemistry and stuff with. That's a game I may have to keep kind of thinking about that, because there's a lot of plays in that game that are very cheap. And
want to make a couple lineups?
Yeah, let's do it. Because knowing Kyler needs the 50 rushing yards and the rushing touchdown, I guarantee you Kyler Murray will know that going into the game. And if a quarterback has 50 rushing yards and a rushing touchdown, that's 11 points before they do anything else. That makes that pretty intriguing to me, especially San Francisco and their injuries. Let's start with let's do kind of what we were talking about, or let's start with that Bucs game. Do you want to do Baker, or do you want to go with like say Bryce or a one-off QB for cheap, which I'm cool with if you want to do like Dobbs or Garoppolo or whatever, but I definitely want to take Evans for sure. Bijan to me, I just feel like you have to have, and I think Thielen belongs in that category too at his price.
I do want to throw Carter in there too.
Let's do it.
4,700. That's going to be a good salary saver.
Yep.
And then we could throw in a defense.
So I kept going to the Jets. Miami without Tua. We've seen they're not great. I know Snoop Huntley probably takes offense to that statement, but at least in
what about the Giants against Tanner McKee?
That's a good call too. The only thing that scares me, Giants D has been so bad here lately. But I mean, I feel bad. I don't know, where's this kid from?
Tanner McKee. I mean, his mother for one thing. Where did he play? Stanford. So he's a smart kid.
He's a goofy looking guy though. Good guy.
I mean, he gave me like Brock Osweiler vibes. Stepping onto the field, because the dude's like 6'6".
I will admit it's pretty impressive to come in your first game and be like, I'm gonna go 3 or 4 for 54 yards and 2 touchdowns.
It's a baller move,
right? Like, I'm sure there was some corner of Philadelphia sports talk radio going, we need a bench Hurts for Tanner McKee. I'm okay with that Giants pick. That saves us 200. I mean, why not? Yeah. Like, it's not a bad play.
If we get the money, we can go up to because is Skylar Thompson starting for the Dolphins? I would assume.
I think it's still Huntley again. I believe. I do want to. I want to throw Thielen in this lineup though. Like, I think if you're going to play Bijan, it makes a lot of sense to throw Thielen on the other side. He's only like 64 or 500, I believe, or actually even less. That's even better. So this is where again it gets interesting. What QB are you leaning towards? Because then we can kind of build from there, I think.
Well, I would like to. I think we could do Baker, but then we got to save elsewhere. I do like throwing in like a Jordan Whittington as well. Because what is he at? He can't be that expensive. 3,300.
I mean, I don't hate if you want to play Dobbs in this lineup, because at 4K, it's almost like the Penix deal a few weeks ago, right? Where that ended up winning the $1 million lineup, and Penix scored 7 points because of the flexibility it gives you by having a QB at that price, especially when it's a QB that runs the way Dobbs does. I mean, it will, I guarantee you, make our lineup stronger top to bottom. And we can build another lineup after this doing that.
I put in McMillan.
Upgrade the defense for sure for doing this, right?
Yeah, I put in McMillan at the flex also.
We would go Tampa here, right? Wouldn't that probably be the right one?
Yeah, go full Tampa.
Yeah.
what do we want to do at tight end? Do you want to can we do Noah Gray with that? Yeah, because then we can go whoever really at tight end and then figure it out. Like Zach Ertz. Zach Ertz needs the big incentive.
Yep, he's another one. Like I said, if they end up rolling Hunter Henry out, man, I would be so excited because I'd be playing Hooper everywhere.
Yeah.
Whether it's, again, I don't care if May ends up playing or not. Rodgers is playing, right? Shocked the Dolphins are that expensive.
He is. That would be kind of hilarious. Looking, let's see. Buffalo's not bad. That's at
because it's like you're right. I mean, they literally have the number 1 pick locked up with a loss, so that's a pretty good place to go. Most people think they're going to play May at most, maybe a series or 2, and then make the adjustment.
Yeah. Like I would have loved to been able to throw like a Bucky Irving in there too, and just completely just nab anything Tampa does.
Well, we can why don't we move Bijan, throw Bucky in there, and then we can do another lineup with Bijan later? Because I like where your head's at with, let's just go all in on this game, right?
Just full on game stack and hope that Tampa puts up 49 points. And just getting every piece of that.
And what would that get us to? We could probably upgrade Carter potentially. That's 900 extra.
I'd say we could probably upgrade. What is...
Go Thomas. Oh, perfect.
Brian Thomas and then played. So you got Mayfield, Irving, Evans, and McMillan, then Michael Carter, Brian Thomas, Whittington, Ertz, and Jets defense.
I love it. I love it. I love that lineup. I'd also would love to do one with it where you literally just swap like McMillan out for either Pittman, Pierce, because then you have the Colts coming back yesterday.
That actually might be better, honestly.
Because I think you can get any of those guys except for Downs in there, I believe.
I do kind of like Pierce a little better.
Oh, I do too. He's going to most likely to go. And that's what I really like about that is like you have Evans, Thomas, and Pierce who all are capable of on any play basically scoring a 60-yard touchdown or more. And I'm with you that Whittington's going to get that Puka Cup, role for the Rams this week where he's going to get to run all the cool, routes and basically get all the targets. All right, let's clear it. And I want to start one with Dobbs because I think that's very, very, very interesting.
Dobbs and you want to go Pearsall?
Absolutely. Yep.
It's 41. It's an $8,100 QB to wide receiver stack.
Unbelievable. Okay, I do want to put Carter in this lineup to have it coming back.
You want Bijan?
No. Well, yeah, but yeah, definitely for sure. All right, so what does that leave us? 57, and we throw in the defense. Again, like I want Thomas. I just I'm going to have him in basically every lineup at 7,300. That's too juicy. And throw Evans in there as well.
And then can't go wrong.
Let's do the Gray at tight end and see what that does. I think that's going to allow us to get one more really expensive guy. 7K, so where does that put us? I don't love that range. Do you?
Yeah, I don't either.
Let's.
You could probably maybe upgrade that.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah, let's do it. Let's look at that.
I put Sutton in, and then we still have 43. It doesn't really do much. Like Ertz again. Like you're not getting into the high range of tight end. Like that's just almost untenable here.
I would honestly, I would rather play like JSN than Sutton. He's 300 cheaper. And just from what we've seen, again, with knowing Gino's got all those incentives, they're going to be slinging it. And then what does that leave us? 4,700. What could we get up to there? You got Pitts. And still
nothing really changes.
Yeah, it's almost the exact same. Yeah, I'd probably just go to Ertz, to be honest.
Yeah,
I would love to be able to trust Kyle Pitts, but I can't, even after last week.
yeah.
But thanks for scoring a touchdown. I do appreciate that.
Yeah. Well, it's funny that play is like the massive degree of difficulty, and of course Pitts made that play.
I couldn't believe he threw it to him. To be honest, as a Falcons fan, I was like, "Oh my god, what are we doing? 4th down, we're gonna throw it to that guy." And when he called it, I was like,
"Literally, it was like, no, okay."
It's like every 3-pointer I ever took in high school. The exact same reaction. I want to do an Indy Jags one because we keep talking about it. It's an all-time bad pass defense. So I want to have Flacco.
What's Flacco at?
He's just going to be cheap, I bet. 40.
54 Rondo.
54. Let's do the Pierce and Pittman.
Yeah.
Obviously, we'll run it back with BTJ. And then again, because after what I saw last week, throw Parker Washington in there too. And then I think we're going to be
game stack. Huh?
Yeah, and I think we're going to be able to load up it back from here. So we got 5,700. Let's go with you want to go Bijan, right?
I'll go Bucky.
All right, let's do Bucky. Do Corum.
Yeah, we didn't put Corum in any of those. So yeah, that's.
Oh yeah, now we're talking. And then we could go say cheap and have basically 7K left, which we didn't really love that range. So let's actually try to pick a defense because I like the 6K range just as much as I do like the high 6K. Which
Eagles?
defense?
I think it'd be the Eagles.
I think that's it, right?
Gotta be, right? Yeah. Like Tampa, I mean, Tampa's not the best defense, but you're also playing like literally a Sunbelt team right now.
Yeah.
It's that like that's the lot like that's the military bowl, might as well be, because you're playing like Louisiana Monroe. Yeah, Eagles would be the team, I think. And then yeah, tight end, it's the only thing is like it doesn't do like much for us to have money with a tight end left. That's the thing.
Yeah, cool. So let's take Washington out.
So
I want to play Juwan Johnson there.
What's he at?
He should be like 36, I think.
That's not bad.
And then what is that, like 6,900? And then, like, is that one of those deals? Do you go?
It's like Sutton, Brian Robinson Jr.
Shit, I'm not gonna lie. I'd rather play Garendo, to be honest.
That was the other one, was Garendo.
Put him in, and maybe we'll upgrade one of those two Colts receivers. Maybe we'll just go with one of them instead of double stacking. Let's go with Pittman because we're going for the, like, at least from a target perspective, he was the top guy. Now what do we have left? 6K, so you could do Oh God, can't click JSN.
We could take out the Eagles and put in whoever, really. Atlanta.
I mean, they actually have been playing pretty good, but I don't like that. I mean, what about the Broncos?
Put the Bills.
Broncos versus Wentz.
What are the Broncos at?
3K. I just realized
3K.
that.
Broncos at 3K or Bills at what for $100 more?
I just like Denver at home, don't you? Or no?
Yeah, because you're facing Carson Wentz. I just can't say any bad words about Carson Wentz, considering the state I'm in.
He's literally the first.
Literally,
article. The single stack starts with Carson Wentz. So you're not going to hear too much disparaging stuff.
And the hoodie I am wearing right now, I cannot say a bad word about them. But who, by the way, will play in the FCS National Championship against Montana State on Monday.
So, and let's throw Thielen in this.
Yeah, because we made enough where it's either Thielen or JSN. Then
I like that lineup too. And again, you can go even cheaper at tight end, which that's something that I would like to fool around one more before we get out of here is with the dude from Dallas that's now the KC tight end. Because if you think, you know what I'm saying? Like, say you want to play.
Shot?
Yeah, you want to play him with, say, either whether you want to play him with Wentz because of the rushing upside or not. Either way, that is another really cheap because I think Wentz is 5,600 and obviously he's 2,500. And the more I think about it, you're right. Gray has basically became one of their top 5 receivers this season, which makes me wonder if you're kind of sitting your guys, why would you have him out there running around?
Yeah. I'm going to throw Geno and JSN in this one.
I think that's a very smart play. Because
And
again, we
then-
know he's playing for something. Like I say, him and Murray are intriguing because of the bonuses, and that's serious cash. This is $1.5 million. Murray's is $2 million.
We might as well just make this lineup, if we're able to, the all incentives lineup, because we could throw Evans in there. You could throw Ertz in there.
Let me pull that thing back up. Hold on.
Stack that bitch up. Peyton Hendershot at Stone Min at tight end.
Where is this thing at?
Because I'm going to throw Evans in there. He's a lock.
There it is. Okay. So you've got I didn't see this one. Now, has Hopkins been ruled out?
I don't think so. No, he has not.
Because he's got 2 big bonuses. If he can get 9 receptions and 140 plus yards, each of those are worth $250,000.
I don't think he's had that combined in the last 7 games.
I get it, but I'm just saying that is out there.
It is out there, but I would almost.
Should we be playing Pollard? Because he's the one, again, he's going to get $500,000 for 83 yards and 2 rushing touchdowns.
And Spears is not playing either.
Spears is out, yeah.
I'd be fine with that. I mean, they're playing Houston. Houston can't move up or down. Yeah.
They're stuck in the Saturday purgatory game.
Yeah.
I kind of like
Howard is questionable, however. But
I have a feeling he'll have $500,000 reasons to at least try to play in that game.
Yeah, or it is also the Titans. We don't know if what their coffers are like if they want to.
Damn, and you were right about Ertz. And so 9 receptions gets him $250K. 90 yards gets him $250K.
Yeah.
And 2 touchdowns gets him $250K.
That's what I'm saying. And we look at that as like a veteran on a young team that you want to take care of your dudes.
And they technically need to win, right? Like if they care about getting the higher seating, right? Like they control their own destiny. That is pretty interesting.
Play double tight end.
Dude, it's week 18, man. If there's
nobody playing this lineup.
If there's ever a week you can justify it. Do we run Corum in this?
Yeah, we could do that. I was gonna throw Sutton in there too. To bring back on Hendershot.
I mean, we can at this point take Hendershot out. I'm good with that. Just play Ertz there and let's build it from there because this is a pretty good line.
Just feeling Ertz.
I really do like seeing that. I would be shocked if they don't go for one of them, right? And any of those are good for you at his price. 90 yards, 9 receptions, and obviously 2 touchdowns would be the mother load. But I mean, at $4K,
you can play double bring back too with Whittington as well.
I like it. Yep.
Although that we can upgrade something there, but.
By the way, Ertz in the first game versus Dallas, 6 catches, 38 yards, and a touchdown. So have really that's going to be in a lot of lineups. That's somebody I had not really considered. I didn't know because he was at the very bottom of the tweet or whatever that I saw had all the incentives on there. I didn't even see that he was on there, much less that he had 3 incentives that he's playing for. I just immediately think of the Chappelle show when they interview the truck driver and he goes, "I'm rich, bitch." That's basically the way I would be. I think if I hit one of those incentives. I just gotta
listen. We just took Hendershot out. We have Courtland Sutton in our lineup. You know who's gonna be running the ball for the Kansas City Chiefs with Pacheco out. More than likely Kareem Hunt is out. Who is our preseason darling?
Carson Steele. Where's Stacey at when we need her?
Look, never wrong, just early on Carson Steele.
If we ever needed evidence that Stacey does not hang out with us on Friday nights and watch, it would be right now. Because if you're listening,
Right.
Stacey, I want you to come on and tell us why we have to have Carson Steele. I didn't even think about him, and that is something Denver kind of struggled with down the stretch. Now, can he hold on to the ball would probably be the question. And also, I think there's a good chance it's a P-Ryan game, right?
I mean, he doesn't really like get a lot of like carries.
No, I get that, but I'm saying that if Kansas City gets down, which I think that's one of the reasons like I like playing Wentz, then next thing you know, if he's throwing it 30% to tight ends, I'm pretty sure I couldn't find it, but I would assume his, target share to running backs is also high. That's usually a theme of they're afraid to throw the ball down the field.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's fair as well. I just say, it's hard to put P. Ryan in a lineup though, because he's so.
Last time I did, he scored me 2 points. Yeah. So I trust me. I get you.
But yeah. And then I put in, let's see. So I had the Jets in there and we can obviously take them out. And we can play literally any other defense we want. You could put the Eagles back in. And
I do like the Eagles. Because again, there's something wrong with the Giants if they. Because for those that do not know this, Joe Matz has been sure to remind me quite a few times. Last year, they lost to the Commanders late and the Patriots, which was the difference between them drafting Malik Neighbors and Jay Daniels or Malik Neighbors and Drake May. Ouch.
I just watched. I just started watching that because I was looking up Max to see what AEW stuff had been put on there because obviously it's streaming on there now. So I looked up Hard Knocks. I've never watched Hard Knocks like ever, especially not when I was like caring. And I just put on the Giants and like, did you watched the Giants one? Right?
Oh yeah,
like
because it was the first time I'd ever seen the front office. I thought it was fascinating. Where
like
you got
when
that
they
much behind the scenes of the decision making.
Yeah, when they had the quarterbacks at the combine, like when Dable was running them through plays, like Caleb and Daniels, and like I think I loved Drake May even more after watching that. He just like took command of that whiteboard, and like all the play calls that Dable was tossing at him.
This QB class could be scary, man. It really could, because Bo Nix is so much better than I thought he was going to be. Like I'll admit I was wrong. Like he's pretty good. And now the question is, what is Caleb's ceiling to me, and how good can Penix be, in his offense? Because if those guys end up being good, like Daniels and May to me are pretty much now, if they don't get injured, like look out, because they're just both so dynamic. And the thing with Daniels that just blows me away watching him is how accurate he is. I did not know he was this accurate. If you look, like almost all of his passes are always leading the receiver away from taking a big hit, or to where they can immediately make a move up the field. And then to see May doing what he's doing with like DeMario Douglas and that just, I mean, the Patriots offense is garbage and they're moving the ball consistently. And it's like, oh my God, you keep, joking or, talking about T Higgins. Like, could you imagine what Drake May could do with T Higgins?
That's what I'm saying, man. Like there's a lot of like really, like I'm taking a look at the wide receivers that are going to be out there free. Like, depending on how he's progressing, like Chris Godwin could be an option like mid-season for a team. It's a lot of older guys. Like we'll see how Stephon Diggs in his rehab is. But T. Higgins is going to be paid handsomely by somebody.
How about they could do that, trade down 1 or 2 picks and potentially still get like Travis Hunter, which to me would just be sick. If you start the season with DeMario Douglas and Jalen Polk and everything, and you enter the next one with, say, T. Higgins and Travis Hunter with Drake May, I would be pretty excited about that if I was a New England fan.
Hell yeah. Like that's like the best thing. If they can take a wide receiver in the draft, like in the second round, like Washington might be low enough where they can take they can find a guy like Luther Burden, like to play off of McLaurin, and that would be just an embarrassment of riches, to pair with McLaurin, and they could, whether it's Sinat or another tight end or whatever the case may be, but like they could be in great shape, get Higgins, like they can make a couple of those guys that are there like now in New England serviceable. Like Mario Douglas is like a serviceable wide receiver. He just can't be the one. Like he's more of a 3 on like, and that's actually that might be pushing it. Being a 3 on like most teams, he's probably a 4 on most teams, but he's fine for what
the
he
lad
is.
whiff hurts because I mean they basically traded the lad pick to get Polk and what's his name, the other dude that was a darling at the
Javon
senior
Baker.
ball, Javon Baker.
Yeah. Tough stuff. But like looking at the wide receivers like that are going to be free agents that are probably going to be commanding money. Like Mari Cooper doesn't do like much to like move the needle especially for a team that's on the rise. The youngest guy that's out there that's not T. Higgins is like Marquise Brown, Darius Slayton, KJ Osborne. Like it's not Ashton Doolin. Like it's not great for like if you're looking for a mid to late 20s.
The Darnell Mooney contract's looking better and better for my Falcons, is what you're saying. Holy
Elijah Moore is out there though. That's mildly interesting.
I was always an Elijah Moore guy. I've been surprised that it hasn't worked out.
Yeah.
But again, bad situations. You've been with the Jets and the Browns. Again, if we've not learned anything this year, it should be that your situation matters. Hello, Sam Darnold and a bunch of other guys. Well, this has been fun. What we're going to keep going on Fridays? You good with that through the playoffs?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm down.
Hopefully Joe Matz will return. I'm just kidding. He's just getting dinner with the family. But Joe will be back. And again, I love that wild card slate because there's just enough games and teams to where you're not going to get overloaded ownership, and especially in like single entries and stuff, you can really do well in. But there's not so many where some of these weeks it feels like you're basically playing a lottery, to be honest. So I just love it. Conference championships when it gets difficult. Like divisional is still okay too because there's at least 8 teams for that one. Once you get down to the conference, that's when it's like you might as well just do single game slates and hope you guess correctly.
I'm going back the first set. So last year was Texans and Browns for the Saturday.
Remember, everybody picked Cleveland. Everybody was all over Cleveland, and they got boat raced.
Chargers, Jacksonville. I do remember that game because that was a really
a T-Law comeback game, wasn't it?
That was the Brandon Staley's getting his ass fired after this game. That was that game, which ended up being like an awesome game. Obviously,
and everybody thought Doug Peterson was going to be a success in Jacksonville. Fun times.
Yeah. Patriots, Bills in 2021.
Mac Jones. Right?
Yeah.
That was when Buffalo beat the brakes off of them, didn't they? Didn't they like score on every drive or something insane?
That was 47-17.
Yeah.
That was that game. And that was the Mac Jones disaster class game there. And then so it seems like that should be earmarked for the Texans. It was actually Colts Bills in 2020. And then other than that, I don't think. Yeah, it just seems like that's like earmarked for the Texans, and it very well might be.
I swear though there was more of those because, like I said, I definitely remember that Bills Texans game because it was just wild. But you're saying that may not have been Saturday, right? That would have had to have been 2019 or 20 because Allen was the 18 class, right? Or 17? Which one was he?
He was 17.
17.
Allen was 17.
I guess it could have been the 18 because that could have been his second year. I think they actually did make the playoffs then. But I'm just disappointed because, again, my team is probably going to win Sunday, probably not going to get in the playoffs. And we made the move to what looked like a really good young starting quarterback way too late. And now everybody's got to wait a year and go into another season potentially with a shitty GM and a coach who I supported, but then again did not take a timeout when he had 2 remaining with 35 seconds left and they threw the ball at midfield. It's just, it's one.
But other than that,
everything's great. And Georgia lost to Notre Dame. On to golf is basically what I'm saying.
Oh boy.
And let's go Hawks. But always enjoy this. You want to plug real quick? You got any articles or anything going on? Because I know, I guess at the end of the year, you probably don't, do you?
No, I'm a free man. I'm just working on some stuff here, working behind the scenes. Not really putting any content out, at least for right now. But who knows? That could change pretty soon with some stuff in the works. So obviously we will keep the masses informed of all things going on with all of us here. But it's nice to have a little break between the kind of madness of the 17-week gauntlet. And of course, obviously DFS doesn't stop until the football stops. So we'll always have that on Fridays.
Yeah, but that's why I don't do a bunch of leagues and stuff. It's like exactly that. It's because like I learned a few years ago. It's like, Keith, if you want to do, DFS as hard as we do it, it's like, I'll have, either with my buddies or, big tourney leagues or whatever. But it's like 5, 6, that's the most. Because you guys are nuts. I just like, I'm amazed at the rosters and stuff that you guys build, but I respect it. Also, just want to take this opportunity this week. Again, we'll be here through the playoffs. That me and Joe are just ecstatic to have had you with us here all year. Yeah, hopefully that continues in the future. I mean, we're not holding you hostage or anything. You're obviously welcome to leave whenever you would like.
Not yet, at least.
But it seriously, man, it's been a wonderful addition, and love chopping it up with you always, and looking forward to the draft show on Mondays, right? Is that what we're doing? I'm confused.
I mean, it seems like, we got stuff going on every day of the week, and, I don't want to, I'm pretty sure it's on Monday.
Okay. So we think it's on Mondays, but we're going to start back doing some drafts. Obviously that will be for like best ball is going through the playoffs.
I'm already amped to start best ball drafts for 2025.
Y'all kind of got me hooked. That's the one thing I'm concerned about is I've been good. And after watching so many and just, sitting through them, I'm like, man, I may have to do a bunch of these this year because, like, for instance, some of the guys that I was really right about and I would have taken at a bunch of leagues, it's like it would have been a nice year to, like have like Ladd and Bowers and those guys in like basically every freaking team you draft. So, it's also just it's the closest thing to DFS that I've seen in fantasy. And I love the sit it. Or what is it? Draft it and forget. That's my favorite part about it. Is
it's the fun of drafting. You don't have to worry about setting lineups and doing all that stuff. Like, good luck getting me to not draft Drake May like 50% of my team. Like, good luck.
Because I hate free agency and all that. Like, I hate it. I hate setting my lineup. Like,
and that's the thing is, like, I'm not the biggest Dynasty fan, but like I'm already seeing mock draft, and this is not a slight to like anybody who does that kind of content. And I just want to make that abundantly clear before I go ahead and offend people. I just don't understand like the soft deadline for players committing to the NFL draft is like a week away, I think, or at least a few days away. We don't even have a set draft order, but we're already got mock drafts up. I just don't know about that. Tell me I'm a boomer to have that take.
Well, not only that, I think that not enough people are aware of things are going to be changing where these guys now have a lot of incentive to stay that they used to not, right? Like you might go in the first round and end up getting more than you got in NIL, but you know what? It's hard to turn down a guaranteed $2 million for one more year of college football. Right. I am fascinated to see how all this works out from the pro perspective, because I'm a big believer in take the money when you can get it, right? So if you can get 3-4 years in college of $2 million and, then go pro, like get that money in the bank account and then get your pro contract, even if it does hurt you a round or two or whatever in your projection, like take that money. So it's exciting times. Going to go to the Senior Bowl again this year. Nice. I'm excited to be back, and you'll hear all of my lukewarm takes because I am not a talent evaluator, nor have I claimed to be. I'm a metrics guy. But I will always, say like, hey, like last year, I was pretty shocked to see how good Ladd looked in person and man-to-man drills and stuff like that. But overall, my buddy Alan that goes is the one telling me like, hey, look at this guy's footwork, etc.
Hey, I need you to do me, if you're going to the Senior Bowl, I need you to do me a favor. Like, I need a Rondé Gadsden. I need you to like watch that guy. Look, I might be a homer a little bit, but a Rondé Gadsden's is like a 6'5" wide receiver tight end hybrid, where if that dude plays tight end, if he's in the Senior Bowl and he's going to be a tight end, he is going to be a fucking problem in the NFL.
Well, I can't wait.
And he has NFL bloodlines. His dad played for the Dolphins.
The Homer thing where I get frustrated with that is like I heard a lot of that about like Ladd and Bowers last year, and I'm going. The difference is you don't say it about like if you're saying it about every guy that plays at UGA, that's one thing, or whatever school that you root for. But otherwise, you're like watching every snap of those guys, which is a huge advantage because I mean I'll be honest, there's so many really good college football teams that I'll watch like maybe one of their games all season. But I know every week I'm going to watch every single snap of UGA. So it's like when people are like, it may be homerism. It's like, no, actually you just watch a lot of that person and you know that, they got talent. The freshman for LSU, 6'7", did you see him? 260, tight end caught 2 touchdowns or like, we're going to see more and more of that, I think, in the NFL of these really big, really athletic, like wide receiver tight ends that if nothing else, are just going to be like situational for red zone, et cetera. Because I mean, what do you do?
Right, and you should know all the Syracuse guys because half of them came over from Fran Brown. Yeah, yep. Like Jackson Meeks has like been their like top 2 wide receiver all year. Him and Trevor Pena have been like the 2 like that, and then obviously Gadsden at tight end, who was 3rd team All-America, by the way. So
I was just upset because your coach was our best recruiter and he did, but I'm happy, very happy for him. But
whatever Syracuse needs to get back into like national prominence, that wasn't by Doug Marrone, like that we'll take it.
I think that we might could have picked it up, but
yeah.
But anyway, again, I know we're ramblers, we can't help it. The fantasy and friends,
you get 2 of us on a stream, like good luck. Sorry, Jorge. Good luck.
Yeah, well, sorry, Stacy is who we should say sorry for. She said something about the other day that what did she say? She said, yeah, just sometimes with 5 people, you just got to make sure we get everybody in. And I go, you mean you're telling me and Kevin, hey, y'all shut the fuck up for 5 seconds and let everybody else talk.
Yeah, so, like Erica, why don't you like talk? Stop talking so much.
Right. I just hope her wrist is okay. Again, we will be here through the rest of the season. There's a ton of good stuff on Fantasy and Frames right now. I'll have a DFS article up this weekend. I hope your NFL teams are alive. They make it on to the playoffs. And as a Falcons fan, pray for me. NRU, again, thank you very much, man. Really do appreciate that. Anytime you have questions, whatever, hop in chat. We will immediately respond. We can't appreciate the support enough. And hey, Stacy may not have been listening. Jorge was. So may the force be with you, Jorge Edwards. But for Kevin and Keith, we'll be back next week, hopefully joined by Joe the Brain Mats. We'll see you guys later.